So this is the system and method for projectile propulsion. Now, what's interesting, instead of using any type of chemical propellant, what we've been able to do based on the geometry that we have is, you'll read it in the background. It's conventionally projectile weapons are powered by chemical potential energy that is converted into kinetic energy. For example, a conventional firearm round includes gunpowder, smokeless powder, or some other propellant that is ignited by a primer, which causes the propellant to deflagrate. Well, gases from the burning propellant becomes pressurized and expand, which push a projectile, such as a bullet or a slug, out of a firing chamber and through a bore of a gun barrel. While chemical-based projectile weapons have been the standard for hundreds of years, the small amount of propellant that can be practically placed in the small volume of the firing chamber limits the propulsive force that can be generated, and therefore limits the speed at which the projectile can be fired and the distance that the projectile can be shot. Well, the summary of this disclosure, and I'll just read this first paragraph. The present disclosure describes systems and methods for projectile propulsion, where the propulsive force is applied by an electrically overloaded capacitor, which causes a portion of the capacitor to explode and generate an explosive propulsive force to propel a projectile with substantially more force and at a substantially higher speed than is achievable by conventional powder-based rounds. So we're basically able to take water and having it in a small chamber, and basically like if you were to think of an ice chest, if you were keeping ice, and you apply an electrical current, you can apply 1,000 volts through the same aperture that you can 1,000,000 volts.
Right.
And now with our geometry, that now is able to sustain that force. And since the water wants to evaporate at 1,700 times its normal volume, and it's unable to do that, now that becomes cubed. And so it immediately skips a gas state that it typically would go to, and it goes to a plasma state. And in that, it converts the gas state into a discharge, and it's basically lightning out of the barrel.
Gotcha.
So depending upon how much electricity you run in through one thimble of water, you can send something into space, or you can send it outside of the solar system. It's able to launch, and that's the goal, was for the linchpins to be launched into space.
So this would be something like riding a percussion wave. So is it something like you send the charge in and you create this expansion through this plasma, then you do it over and over again and it rides this?
Yeah, you put it on a sustained thing. But if you think about, I'll give one secret away. If you think about Victor Schauberg's example of the fluidity of how water is supposed to move, now you're able to get an internal interaction that's sustainable, and then you provide a way out.
Gotcha.
So we're able to, it's basically lightning out of the barrel. It's ray guns, and then we patented it as a gun, but not because we were trying to make guns. We wanted to prevent anyone else from being able to make it as a weapon.
Gotcha.
But there's nothing that can stop this.
No, the applications are almost endless.